Turnstiles in Pakistan? Are those gates for dogs? The entire studio froze at these sharp words. A few commentators couldn't hold back their snickers, and then loud laughter erupted from the audience. On the screen, footage from Karachi Kent Station in the early morning was shown, where a stream of people moved with astonishing order. The fragile flaps of the turnstiles opened and closed silently and continuously. Are you kidding me? Is this the standard for a modern railway system? These words were spoken by Elżbieta Nowak, an engineer from European Rail Systems, ERS, with a slight shrug of her shoulders. She proudly crossed her arms, a challenging smile playing on her face. Our Griffin high-speed trains use turnstiles with facial recognition and thick steel gates. Even a child could jump over this. The program's host chimed in. Indeed, the turnstile in my apartment complex is probably more secure. The audience burst into laughter again. There's no sense of security. Or do Pakistanis trust each other too much? In an atmosphere filled with ridicule and sarcasm, Elżbieta nodded with satisfaction. To her, a turnstile was a symbol of technological might, thick steel, high-resolution surveillance cameras, a complex data analysis system. It was something to be protected with absolute vigilance and control, not trust. That's why she couldn't believe the simplicity of the turnstiles in Pakistan. How is this possible? Anyone could ride for free. Hearing her words, one of the male commentators interjected, Maybe Pakistanis are so small they can't jump over it. Another explosion of laughter followed. After the program aired, social media exploded with sarcastic posts like Pakistani turnstiles, gates for dogs. Pakistan, a country developing rapidly, suddenly became the target of unexpected mockery. However, a few days later, Elżbieta personally traveled to Pakistan for an interview as part of a joint project, and the moment she stepped off the plane and headed to the railway station, she realized how superficial her mockery had been. The turnstile she had called a dog gate embodied a philosophy of trust that her own country, Poland, had partly left behind in its rush for development, while Pakistan continued to cherish it. This is a story of how a Polish female engineer, amidst ridicule, came to understand a true strength she had forgotten. At the same time, it is a sketch of Pakistan's pride and worldview, captured in the small gates we pass through every day. Elżbieta Nowak, 35, from the Technical Department of European Rail Systems, was responsible for infrastructure design. Her colleagues called her the Iron Maiden. She worked selflessly, believing she was an engineer shouldering a national responsibility. This time, she came to Pakistan because ERS had launched a joint project with Pakistan Railways, PRIA, on the theme of improving the user experience, aiming to compare the systems of the two countries and learn from each other. A major European television channel also filmed a report about it and produced a program. It was in this context that the dog gate statement was made. In truth, Elżbieta already had complex feelings about Pakistan. A few years ago, her company launched a special promotion, a free upgrade to business class for Pakistani passengers on the Warsaw-Krakow route to promote cultural exchange. It was a gesture of goodwill. However, the report that landed on her desk listed a series of undignified acts by a group of Pakistani passengers, leaving trash on the seats, being noisy, and someone even stole amenities from the train. Pakistanis were always said to be hospitable. What happened? Have they changed? She was disappointed, even feeling something close to hostility. Deeply ingrained in her blood was a pride in the national high-speed rail system she held dear. From Warsaw to Gdansk in just over 2.5 hours, the powerful design of the carriages, the dizzying speed, and the enormous scale. This was the quintessence of technology. As an engineer, she worshipped the power of technology and efficiency. Technology had to be precise and overwhelming. Therefore, she wasn't particularly enthusiastic about this business trip. What can I possibly learn in Pakistan? She said to herself, looking out the airplane window. For the film crew accompanying her, she put on a more confident smile than usual, proud that European railways were the global standard. She didn't know then that in just a few days, her self-evident views would be completely overturned. Landing at Jinnah International Airport in Karachi, Elżbieta involuntarily gasped in surprise. The floors gleamed impeccably. The air seemed cleaner. The staff in the arrivals hall greeted her with a warm smile. Khush Amdeed to Pakistan. Those words warmed her in a strange way. The signs to the baggage claim area were in multiple languages: English, Chinese, Urdu. The flow of people was continuous. No one stopped. There were no unnecessary movements. The crowd flowed smoothly, like a river. "Why is everything so smooth?" she couldn't help but ask her colleague. He shrugged. They probably set it all up for the filming? Nevertheless, a feeling had already begun to sprout in Elżbieta's heart that couldn't be explained by the simple word staged. On the way from the airport to the hotel, she watched the scenery outside the window, not a speck of litter on the streets. Traffic lights changed with absolute precision. Every car kept its distance, moving forward quietly. It was an orderliness, like a mechanism, but not off-putting, completely different from the crowded and noisy megacities she was used to. A few days later, she read a news story. In the 2024 ranking of the world's cleanest airports, Pakistan's major airports regularly made the top lists. Seeing these figures, Elżbieta gave a bitter smile. It turned out this wasn't a coincidence. Cleanliness and friendliness, but that's just service culture, a far cry from railway technology, she told herself, and boarded the express train heading to the city center. The train started moving silently. The vibration of the carriage was so slight that she again felt something inexplicable. There was something fundamentally different from Poland. What was it? She didn't know yet. The next day, the Polish delegation, including Elżbieta, visited the headquarters of Pakistan Railways. They were met by Ali Hassan, the manager of the International Relations Department. He bowed kindly and said in English, "Welcome. First, I will show you our facilities at the station." Mr. Hassan, in a smart suit, was very careful with his words. Even through the interpreter, his sincerity could be felt. Elżbieta whispered quietly, a typical Pakistani. But that smile will disappear soon. Descending the escalator into the depths of the station hall, they saw the silver devices, rows of turnstiles. Each time a passenger tapped their card, a pleasant electronic sound chimed. A thin flap opened and immediately closed. This sequence of actions was surprisingly quiet and smooth. Mr. Hassan pointed at them. "This is our company's access control system." "Huh? This?" Elżbieta frowned. Snickers were heard among her colleagues. This was completely unlike the thick iron barriers with facial recognition they were used to seeing in Poland. Just a waist-high flap that opened and closed easily. Too primitive. Even a child could jump over it. In Poland, this would break in a single day. The taunts flew one after another, the laughter echoing through the hall. The film crew captured this scene, and the director nodded with satisfaction, saying it was a valuable shot. This segment was later shown in Poland, causing an explosion of laughter in the studio. "There must be a lot of fare dodgers," Elżbieta snorted. "And the sensors are slow. Anyone could slip through." Mr. Hassan just smiled warmly and replied, "I suggest you observe." They took turns standing before the cameras. And at that moment, Elżbieta froze. Not a single fare dodger. Hundreds of passengers passed through continuously. But there was no pushing, no chaos. The sound of cards being read was rhythmic. People moved as if in a single beat. Mr. Hassan continued calmly. "This turnstile allows 70 people to pass per minute. Its design is not for restriction, but to avoid interrupting the user's flow." "Not for restriction," Elżbieta murmured. The turnstiles in Poland were created based on mistrust and control. The Pakistani turnstiles were based on trust, just one turnstile. But the difference between the two cultures became obvious. Looking closely at the backs of the people passing by, Elżbieta couldn't help but recall the scenes at her country's stations. Giant crowds, continuous announcements over the loudspeaker, guards shouting. She had always considered this natural for managing a large system. That natural was now silently mocking her. In the station hall, the laughter died down, leaving only the pleasant electronic sound. After passing through the turnstiles, she saw a platform unlike what she was used to. She involuntarily stopped. It was as quiet as the surface of a still pond. It was clearly rush hour. There should have been hundreds of passengers, but there was no jostling, no loud conversations. Office workers in suits, students, tourists. Everyone naturally formed lines at the small painted arrows, waiting silently. No one broke the order. As soon as a space became free, someone naturally took it. There were no words, no instructions, but the whole thing worked as if breathing in unison. Why isn't anyone telling them what to do? Elżbieta tilted her head in confusion. Mr. Hassan smiled beside her. In Pakistan, queuing is not just a rule. People see mutual respect, what we call tehzeeb, as a habit. This concept has taken root and ultimately creates order. These words made Elżbieta shudder. Order created by commands and supervision. That's what she had believed until now. But what she saw before her was built on trust, not commands. She began to understand that even when no one is watching, the value of doing the right thing is nurtured here. The train arrived. The doors opened. Everyone simultaneously took a step back. Until all the exiting passengers had left the carriage, no one moved. In this silence, only the screech of metal could be heard. Soon the queue began to move. People calmly entered the carriage. No one rushed. No one complained. She couldn't help but remember the scenes of struggle and pushing, common in her homeland. She had once been proud of this as the nation's vitality, always pushing forward. But now she was ashamed of that thought. I think I understand why this little turnstile isn't broken, Elżbieta murmured. Pakistan Railways was managed not by rules, but by trust. Not by supervision, but by self-awareness. Not by machines, but by the hearts of people. Before she could finish her sentence, the train departed, like a floating cloud. Elżbieta, holding her breath, looked at her watch. The hour and minute hands matched the departure schedule to the second. The departure deviation at this moment is 0, Mr. Hassan said calmly. There was no hint of boasting in his words, just a warm statement of daily efforts. Elżbieta exhaled quietly and smiled. It was not a scornful or sarcastic smile, but a natural smile that comes when the soul is touched. Amazing. This is the first time I've been on a train that departs so smoothly. It's as if time gently approaches a person. Mr. Hassan squinted slightly. Yes, Pakistan Railways is a place where time is measured by the breath of people, not by machines. The machine measures the flow, but the person feels the flow. These words sank deep into her soul. Time measured by the breath of people. The meaning of the word precision was quietly changing in her mind. Then, Elżbieta moved to the platform for the high-speed express. The same station, but the density of the air seemed to have changed. It was a feeling unfamiliar to her. The moment she stepped onto the platform, Elżbieta held her breath. Hundreds of people were standing in line. The air was clear and quiet. Only the wind and announcements could be heard. It seemed as if time itself was holding its breath. Why is it so quiet? She couldn't help but whisper. Mr. Hassan smiled warmly. In Pakistan, silence is not patience, but a civilized act of not disturbing another's time. For example, cleaning up your own trash after eating is not just because you don't want to cause inconvenience, but also out of consideration for the next person who will be here. This culture of mutual respect, or lihaz, has been passed down from parents to children for hundreds, thousands of years. This consideration remains the backbone of this land today. The moment she heard these words, a warm wave spread through Elżbieta's chest. Mutual respect had become a culture. She had never felt such a thing in her homeland. There, hustle and bustle were a symbol of development, but in Pakistan, the silence felt like a moment of prayer connecting people. Entering the high-speed train carriage, she immediately understood what he meant. Not a speck of dust on the seats. The light from the window reflected softly. A passenger next to her quietly put their finished drink can into their own bag. People passing through the aisle gave each other slight nods. Everyone respected the existence of the other, connected by an invisible thread. During the journey, the sunset painted the carriage in crimson tones, a gentle light enveloping people's faces. Everyone was reading, dozing, or silently looking out the window. This silence sounded like a chorus in her soul. Elżbieta realized that the silence of Pakistanis was not muteness, but an almost prayerful act, an action for others that had become part of daily life and told the story of this place. Not with words, but with actions. This was the strength of this place, completely different from the way China imposes order with technology. Her own expression, reflected in the window, was no longer one of comparison, but was colored with deep emotion. An announcement was made on the train. "The train is currently running on schedule," Elżbieta asked with a smile. "And what is the margin of error for on schedule?" "The average annual delay for high-speed trains in Pakistan is 30 seconds. For the entire year, just 30 seconds. For a moment, she couldn't grasp the meaning of those words. 30 seconds, a single breath, and that was the margin of error for an entire year. Her mind understood, but her heart couldn't keep up. In Poland, high-speed trains were also extremely punctual, but it was the result of a giant control system and rigid procedures. A delay was considered a technical error. When she realized this, a warm feeling rose from the depths of her chest. Then, in the training center, drivers were seriously performing a simulation. The body can feel even a 5-second deviation. Hearing the words of a young driver, Elżbieta sighed in admiration. In Poland, if you talk about a 5-second delay, it would be considered a serious systemic failure. Her laughter trembled, as if she was holding back tears. In precision measured in seconds, there was truly a human element. On the final day, Elżbieta and the delegation visited the PR Traffic Control Center. A huge screen covered the entire wall. Countless glowing dots displayed the movement of trains, pulsing like a heart. Staff calmly exchanged commands through headsets. No one spoke loudly. No one showed any anxiety. In this room, a 1-minute delay is equivalent to an accident. The words of their guide, Mr. Hassan, instantly made the atmosphere tense. He also spoke about the natural disaster response system. When a sensor detects the slightest vibration, an AI immediately analyzes the data and selects a safe route, faster than a human. But the final decision is always made by a human. Machines exist not to surpass humans, but to protect them. "It's too perfect," Elżbieta murmured involuntarily. She had never seen a place where the relationship between technology and humans was so harmonious. Within the cold data lay human warmth. This gentle perfection touched her heart. What impressed her most was the model of the next-generation high-speed train. A huge model appeared silently before her. The guide explained with a smile. "The target speed will be higher, but the most amazing thing is its silence." A video showed the train gliding smoothly, without the screech of metal, just the smooth cutting of air, as if the future is quietly approaching. Elżbieta's words were more like a prayer than admiration. Mr. Hassan said softly, "Pakistan Railways exists not for speed, but to deliver people to their destinations reliably and quietly." At that moment, something in Elżbieta's soul melted. In Poland, speed was a source of pride. But in Pakistan, silence was proof of trust. "Understated, but perfect," she whispered. Pakistan was a silent island, hurtling into the future. She was sure of it, and quietly closed her eyes. On the night before her departure, in the hotel lobby, Elżbieta received an email from the television channel's investigative team. The subject line, "The truth about the business-class passenger incident." Opening it, she was stunned. The badly behaved passengers who had caused problems in Poland were not Pakistani. The investigation results showed that it was a group of tourists from another country using forged passports. A pain pierced her heart. Images of the Pakistanis queuing in an orderly fashion, waiting silently on the platform, resurfaced. No one argued. No one pushed. The truth she hadn't wanted to believe was finally clear. "I was wrong." A faint voice escaped her lips. She didn't blame her ignorance, but regretted turning away from the truth. This wasn't a failure, but the beginning of understanding. On the plane back home, she opened her notebook. Silence, trust, human-centered design. The words learned in Pakistan filled the page. Apply this to European railways. This thought quietly ignited in her heart. Upon returning home, Elżbieta proposed at a meeting, "I want to build a system based on trust, not on a design that controls users." The era of building turnstiles and stations based on mistrust of people is over. At first, her colleagues laughed at her, but she didn't give up. A few months later, at a new station in a regional city, Elżbieta's proposed user flow design based on trust was implemented. The number of surveillance cameras was reduced, walkways were widened, and a structure was created that encouraged people to naturally yield to one another. As a result, the number of conflicts decreased, efficiency increased, and the station became calmer. "You can bring children here without worry." Every time she heard these words from users, Elżbieta's heart warmed. The security guards also said, "It's incredible. There are fewer cameras, but people seem to have become kinder." Standing on the finished platform, feeling the wind on her face, she smiled, a silence born from trust. The scene she had witnessed in Pakistan still resonated in her heart. A few weeks later, a major European television channel aired a special program, Pakistan, a country governed by silence. It began with Elżbieta's journey, from Jinnah International Airport to the almost silent platform, the astonishingly orderly queue, and the scene where people passed through the small turnstiles as if breathing in unison. The audience in the studio gradually fell silent. The host said, "In these small turnstiles lies a trust that the world, in its race for technology, has sometimes forgotten." At the end of the program, the guests in the studio applauded simultaneously. It was not a roar of excitement, but a quiet applause, full of deep respect. The commentator who had previously mocked them said into his microphone, "How ironic. We laughed at the Pakistani turnstiles, calling them dog gates. But in reality, we are the ones locked in a cage of mechanical rules. Those aren't small gates. They are an entrance to a world of trust." These words once again plunged the studio into silence. Then someone quietly said, "The strength of Pakistan lies in what has no voice." After the broadcast, the program was syndicated by media outlets around the world. Countless comments poured in on social media. "Only a culture without pushing and shoving can create the world's best railways." Trust is a more reliable security system than sensors. They are moved not by rules, but by the soul. The silence of that place made me cry. Attached to the comments was a photograph of the trust station designed by Elżbieta. The sun flooded the platform, and on the faces of the people walking on it, there was a light, pride, and gentleness. The final voiceover gently said, "The turnstile in Pakistan is not just a gate. The world sees in it a project of the Pakistani soul called trust." The screen changed, and white credits appeared. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is trust. If this story has touched your heart, please press the subscribe and like button to support the island that has stirred the world, Pakistan. Your quiet applause will be the impetus for new emotions. Thank you for watching until the end.